Welcome into the Fantasy Rant podcast presented by Stadium Rant. I'm your host, Dan Baker, accompanied by, we got the regular crew this week. We got Lee Cook, Mason Beck, and Evan Gooding here with us. We are creeping up on the NFL season. It is just 74 days away from kickoff. It's just over 2 months. We are creeping in, so we are going to be running our first redraft mock draft of the season. Pumped to do it. We're going to get you guys that are, redraft only, some good intel here. We're going to jump right into it. And I am going to post the results of all four of our teams on Twitter. Make sure you follow Stadium Rant HQ and or me at Follow the Volume. I'll be posting them in both spots. Make sure you go on, vote for your favorite team, see who wins the draft. All right, so without further ado, we are jumping into this draft. Boys, this is your one notice. Turn off the sound. We don't want to hear all them dings. You guys all got them off?
Yep, I got mine off now. We're good.
All right, let's run it. All right, so we got Mason in the 1 spot. I'm in the 4 spot. Evan, you just jumped.
I moved. I traded with the bot 111.
We need some snipes in this. So Evan's at the 11 spot and Lee at the 12. Boys, if I am not recapping round by round, hit me up in the private chat so I can give our radio listeners some intel here. But Mason's up with the 101. I would be shocked if he doesn't take. Yep, there it is.
You gotta go CMC. He's just so much ahead of any other running back.
It's Christian McCaffrey and wide receiver. There's no way anyone's if CMC's healthy the entire year, and especially if Brandon Ayuk ends up leaving the team. There's no player that is going to come even close to CMC. I am up at the 4 spot. After CMC went Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb. I am going Jamar Chase. I love Jamar Chase this season. I do think that he returns to what we're more used to seeing now that Joe Burrow won't be dealing with those injuries, both elbow and ankle at different points last season. So definitely looking for a healthier season from Joe Burrow and Jamar to return to form. After Jamar goes JJ, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Breece Hall, Puka Nacua, Bijan Gibbs, leaving Evan at the 11th spot. Talk us through what you're thinking, Evan.
Ooh, I'm thinking that I like 2 guys here a lot, and I'm trying to fill my positions here. So I like AJ Brown a ton. I like Garrett Wilson a ton. So between those 2 guys, if I go wide receiver, but I really, for redraft purposes, really love a running back that's a little bit below here. So I'm hoping that Lee's not going to snag him, and I'm going to go Garrett Wilson here.
I like it. Garrett Wilson going to demand targets in that offense, even with a couple of added wide receivers from last year. They brought in Mike Williams. They got Malachi Corley in the draft. But Garrett Wilson, he earned the most targets through his first 2 seasons in the NFL for a reason. And I think he's going to continue to prove so, hopefully with it. Healthy Aaron Rodgers, and if not, they at least got Tyrod as a backup, which I say is a step up from Zach Wilson.
It's a step up from everybody he's ever had. So
yeah, truthfully, except Joe Flacco.
I'm a little surprised that you went Wilson over AJ Brown. I mean, I definitely see the potential, but so AJ Brown's a slam dunk. We got to take him, and really, I think the chalk picks here for me don't really want to reach on a wide receiver at this turn, and to me, I like Jonathan Taylor quite a bit more than Saquon Barkley. On top of, I'm not going to stack a wide receiver running back with my first 2 picks. So we're going to take Jonathan Taylor. Just got paid, healthy, and should be a really good offense.
See, that's funny, Lee, why you said that, because I didn't take A.J. Brown. I would have normally, but I want Saquon here. So I didn't want the stack either, and I'm going to take Saquon later. I think that the trade-off from Saquon to Jonathan Taylor and these other running backs is going to be much, much better for me than the difference between Garrett Wilson and A.J. Brown will be this year.
Yeah. I like the thoughtfulness because I do think that Wilson and Brown will end up finishing close to each other. How they get there will be a little bit different. A.J. Brown had that crazy run. I think it was 7 games in a row where he had over 150 or maybe over 125 yards. And after that, it was just a tale of 2 different seasons, kind of like Stephon Diggs in a similar manner. I really think that A.J. Brown is going to see a little bit more consistency with Kellen Moore taking over. I think that they're going to do similar things that Kellen Moore did with C.D. Lamb in the past, Keenan Allen last season, get their star wide receiver in the slot and just pepper them. That being said, Devonta Smith is also a very solid. I'm not even calling him a 2. He's like a 1B. So he could get mixed into the slot easily. Dallas Goedert could get mixed into the slot. Maybe even Saquon from time to time. So
I don't know how Saquon's going to shake that.
Garrett Wilson will have a higher target share and might be a little bit more consistent. But you got two pieces of the offenses that you wanted to get into here. I do like that. And after your Saquon Barkley pick goes Marvin Harrison at the 203, Kyron Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Drake London, Devontae Adams, and Chris Olave on the board. If you guys are following us on YouTube, checking out the pod, you can see some of these players that are left on the board. Definitely not going quarterback or tight end this early in the draft, but there are some names around, some veteran names mixed in with some younger guys. Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuels at wide receiver, Etienne, Achane, Jacobs, Henry at running back. I am going to take the risk on Deebo Samuel here at the 2. Both Jamar and Deebo are kind of boomer bust players. So that I might need to find some more consistent wide receivers in the later rounds here. But if Brandon Ayuk does end up getting traded, I think Deebo's just absolutely going to eat. I am curious to hear Mason's opinion on this. Where are you at with the Brandon Ayuk situation?
I don't know, very conflicted because they did offer him pretty big offer. He said no. Okay. Thanks, Lee. But, I don't know. I mean, obviously I do want him to stay. Part of me says that he's gone for sure. Part of me says that he is going to stay. A lot of reports bouncing around on what's really going on there. I don't think he gets traded. Whether or not they do extend him, I think that the Niners, will at least take that risk to make another Super Bowl run. So I do see him staying on the Niners this year. Because from what I'm seeing, like nobody's really even sending offers to them that Niners are super interested in. So it doesn't really seem like that's going to happen. I think that in order for him to be traded, someone will have to overpay just because the team is, we are a win now team. Okay, thanks. I am crying on the inside, and I'm trying to not cry on the outside.
I thought that was a comment. Lee, is that you in the headlines?
Not me.
Oh, not you, never you.
There it is. I couldn't take it down. I glitched out. It was stuck up for some reason. I actually couldn't take it down.
One thing I
don't know if I believe you for sure, but after Deebo, we got Josh Allen going at the 210, Sam Laporta at 211, and then Mason is back on the clock at the 212 at the turn here. What's going through your mind?
Well, one, I'm for sure taking Mike Evans because he's guaranteed 1,000-yard season if he's healthy, and that's just very solid floor. I already got Christian McCaffrey as my guy who's just going to go off every week that he's healthy, and so when you got that guy that already alone can win you weeks, get a nice safe player in Mike Evans. And then as my second one, I'm going to take Josh Jacobs, get my second RB. Dynasty, I never draft RBs early. Redraft, it's a whole different story for me. There's not as many guaranteed starters, so they do hold a lot more value in the early rounds. I think just Josh Jacobs, we've shown he can be that workhorse. Marshawn Lloyd might feed into it a little bit, which is a little scary. I don't think as much year one necessarily. And then just Green Bay should be a really good offense this season, which gives Jacobs a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I will say that the talk around, like the head coaches or the head coach, the staff in general, and the GM have all had different comments talking about Marshawn Lloyd's explosiveness, how they want to use a multi-back system. That being said, there's no way Josh Jacobs doesn't get at least 200 probably rushing attempts and definitely touches. They just paid him a lot of money. He's going to be there for at least 2 seasons. So I agree. I think that he's going to get some good utilization. He'll be a solid RB2 on your team. After Jacobs, we got Stephon Diggs and Devon Achane. Achane's one of those names where I think there's a big divide in the community. Raheem Mostert's been brought back. They bring in Jalen Wright through the draft. I do think that Achane's, his frame might not hold up. There's reports that he added a little bit of weight. That being said, I think that this, unless you plan on backing up Devon Achane with some sturdy running backs that can take on the workload, won't get injured, and have a consistent baseline, Achane's a risky pick here in the late second, early third. What do you guys feel about Achane?
I think it's risky. I mean, it obviously very much could pay off, but just too many speedsters in that backfield where I don't know if I'm willing to necessarily take him early third or late second.
Yeah.
The roster construction as well. Because you take, the computer takes Josh Allen in the second round, it leaves them in a tough spot filling out the rest of the roster, as we know in redraft. And I don't want Achane as my RB1.
I do want him as my RB1. I like that pick a lot, man. I would, or no, you didn't pick it. Team 3 picked it. Yeah, that's right.
Team 3 picked him. I would have considered him if he made it to me, just because he does offer that week winning upside. It really only takes one play for this guy to have a solid week. I've been getting a good amount of them in best ball, but I have been not so adamant unless I have like a true RB1 on the team taking Achane. So I did end up going Jalen Waddle. So I'm going wide receiver heavy in the first three rounds. I take Jalen Waddle in the third. After that goes Travis Kelce, DJ Moore, Travis Etienne, Nico Collins, Jalen Hurts, second QB off the board, and then Derrick Henry before we get to Evan's 3-11 pick. It's pretty late for Derrick Henry, all things considered. He's still going to get fed. He's still an absolute monster and in a great rushing system now. Evan, if Derrick Henry was there, would you have gone with Derrick Henry?
Easily,
right.
I think this is going to be a huge year for him. I actually brought him up as a buy now target for win now teams, and I definitely would have taken him here. Right now, it's kind of like I like Michael Pittman. I like Malik Neighbors, but a little risky. I'm a little nervous about Michael Pittman though. Like Adonai Mitchell, I loved Adonai Mitchell. Like you guys know, I think I was the highest on him out of us in the group. And dude, I think he's gonna be great. And it does drop down Michael Pittman for me a little bit. So I'm gonna take Pacheco here. I'm gonna take the best running back on the board. Clearly, the next running back would be Rashad White, then James Cook. So I like Pacheco more than those guys by a good margin. So I'm going there.
Yeah, Pacheco is a name that I didn't even bring up. I knew he wouldn't get back to me, but it's just too good of a pick right there. I think Pacheco has top 5 upside, but realistically will probably finish in that like 6 to 12 range. I really don't think his floor is any lower than a top end RB2.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of like highlight clips of him like catching the ball, like doing a lot more work catching the ball too.
Yeah, he had a decent amount of receptions last year. I think it's 44, if I'm not mistaken.
That was with McKinnon. Do they still have McKinnon? Is he still there?
He's not.
Yeah, so that's
he's not on the roster. They didn't do anything else to fix the running back position. They bring back CEH. They have Keontae Ingram. They brought in like a side project almost in that rugby player.
Luis Reese-Lamie.
That's a fun name. Louis Reed. Yeah, whatever you said. But yeah, Pacheco is going to get the passing work. He did have 44 receptions last year, and you know that they get creative around the goal line. So I don't see him finishing with anything less than 8 total touchdowns. But this brings us on to Lee's pick at 312. You got AJ Brown and Jonathan Taylor. Who's going to be your third round pick here, Lee?
So real quick, just 2 comments. One, I'd have taken Pacheco over Derrick Henry there. I would have certainly taken him in this pick if Evan didn't. But I don't know that I would have taken Henry here. That's just me. A little scared of the age. It's great offense, great opportunity, but a little scared. Also, just real quick on the Brandon Ayuk piece, Mason was speaking on it. I think the big news that came out and what he retweeted and seemed a little upset about, or even more upset, was that Washington and San Francisco had pretty heavy talks, and Washington actually walked away because they didn't want to pay. But they were pretty deep in negotiations during the draft. We know Adam Peters has that connection, the Jaden Daniels connection. I feel like the price, the more trouble he stirs, the price goes down. And I do see a trade happen. I don't know. It might be to a surprise candidate, but I think he gets moved. As far as here, it's kind of a tough spot. I don't love Pittman or Neighbors, so I'm going to go a little away from the chalk. I'm going to go with a bounce back year for Cooper
Love
Kupp.
Absolutely love it.
Feel like that's need to balance that. If he can stay healthy, I love the 1-2 punch of Kupp and AJ Brown. And then I'm going to stay in the same division, and again down the board a little bit. I'm going to take DK Metcalf, as the guy I love, and I feel like he's a bit undervalued this year.
Those are the exact two players that I would have chose at this spot. Kupp has so much upside, a ton of red zone usage, and he's going to be healthy this year. I really think the only thing that could stop him from having at least a high-end wide receiver 2 season is Stafford going down. They brought in Jimmy G as the backup. I believe his suspension is coming for PEDs, but even if Jimmy G's there, he's not the wide receiver, the fantasy wide receiver maker that Stafford is. Stafford just absolutely peppers his favorite targets. But I think Jimmy G is a much more solid backup than the Rams have had in the past. So I do think that overall that's a solid pick. And Metcalf, still the wide receiver 1 on his team. Lockett getting older. So much upside there. And one of the highest red zone usages in the NFL. I believe he was something around 5. I can fact check that, though.
Jimmy G, not a good quarterback.
All right, really quick before Evan makes his pick, I'm just going to recap our first 3 for Lee 4 rounds, but our first 3 rounds here. Lee goes AJ Brown, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, and DK Metcalf. Evan, Garrett Wilson, Saquon Barkley, and Pacheco. I got Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel, and Jalen Waddle. And Mason has Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans, and Josh Jacobs. All of us but one have some type of a different build. So a lot of things that you guys can learn from this draft. But Evan, take it away. You're 4-2.
All right. So I'm looking at the same wide receivers at the top of the board, Pittman and Malik Neighbors. And I don't think I'm going to be able to let these guys slip to you guys down there, or I don't think they would make it. I think the bots would consume them, but also not time to go for a quarterback. Mahomes is really getting close to the board, but definitely too early. We'll let the bots do that. And then if I was to go running back, which I don't think I'm going to go here, I'm probably going to take one of those top 2 receivers. If I was to go running back, there's Rashad White, James Cook, Joe Mixon, and Kenneth Walker. I'm probably taking Kenneth Walker there out of those guys. But
that's spicy to me.
But we're not taking a running back here. We're going Malik Neighbors, and we're getting a shot for the upside, taking a rookie shot for rookies. So one thing you will notice, we're talking about different styles, things like that. I love rookies. I always have. I always will. And it doesn't matter if it's dynasty or redraft. I'm drafting them. So,
yeah, we've all tried. Nobody can convince him not to take these strategies. So I do like Malik Neighbors in the 4th. I think that's solid. He's by far the best wide receiver on that team, even if Daniel Jones isn't giving consistent, accurate targets. He's going to get enough volume, and he does enough after the catch to make up for it. So in a full PPR like we're drafting today, I think Neighbors is a solid pick there, be it a little risky. I personally, even though you got Saquon on the team, would have went with Devonta Smith.
No, I'm not doing the stack. Not doing the stack. And for the 1B to stack, if I was going to stack, I would have done the AJ Brown Saquon stack. I'm not doing the stack with Devonta.
So you would have rather had AJ Brown in the 1st than Devonta in the 4th.
Unless there are 2 evils, yeah, but not neither. If I could avoid both of them, yeah, that would be great.
Take it for what it is, but Devonta Smith the last 2 years, wide receiver 9 and 19 last year with missing a game. There was at least 2 games too where he played a very low snap percentage. I do think Devonta Smith has again, that type of like wide receiver 18 baseline with upside, especially should AJ Brown go down for any amount of time.
It's really hard for me to draft a wide receiver that's not the one on their team. And like while there's wide receiver ones still available on the board. So we got a lot of wide receiver ones on their teams, like Malik Neighbors, wide receiver 1, Michael Pittman, wide receiver 1. There's a lot of those guys names out there right now still. And, I'm not going to take a wide receiver 1B, even if he's a 1B. I'm not going to take a 1B over somebody who's a clear as day 1A.
I personally think that's something to get over. I took Jalen Waddle in the 3rd. He's incredible. Last year, I think most of us considered him to have a down year. Even with that being said, he was another guy that missed a decent amount of snaps in game and would return from injury, not 100%, play the rest of the game. He only played 14 games last season. I'm going to look up what he was per game, but Jalen Waddle, with missing 3 full games and playing only a portion of another 2 or 3 games at least from injury, still over 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns, 14 yards per catch. Guy gets targeted, he is going to be a big factor, and him being the 1B does not bother me at all, personally. Just before Mason makes his pick here, after Evan's pick of Malik Neighbors at 402, we got Lamar Jackson, Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman, Rashad White, CJ Stroud, Patrick Mahomes. At the 409, I take James Cook. Me and Lee both have talked about this. I think this was our podcast. This actually might have been Fifth Down territory. James Cook, I think he was 3rd in the league last year in total scrimmage yards for running backs. Only people ahead of him was Christian McCaffrey for sure. There's one other running back that I can't think of right now, but James Cook is going to eat. And then if he ever gets the red zone usage, he is going to jump up into an elite tier in fantasy. Happy to get him as my RB1 here.
Any concerns about sweet baby Rays?
Ray Davis? Sweet baby Rays. We love that barbecue sauce. No concerns, truthfully. I think that if anything, he is going to be what they brought in, Latavius Murray and who was the scrub they signed last minute last year? Leonard Fournette. Those 2 guys, I think they brought in for that red zone role. I think they did bring in Ray Davis as a bigger guy to take over that role potentially. He's a rookie, though. He's probably not going to get mixed in heavily at the beginning of the season. I'm hoping that if James Cook can prove himself as an efficient red zone back early in the season, that they don't move off of him. But regardless, he gets enough yards and receptions to make up for the lack of touchdowns.
I don't like that they drafted 2 running backs. If they just drafted, Ray Davis too, but getting Frank Gore Jr. as well, like that sends the sign to me that, okay, this team realized and recognized that they're not secure at the running back position and they needed to bolster it with 2 guys. And that just sends
I just think they were tired of going after old busted running backs, decided to go with youthful guys. And Frank Gore Jr. is not a big guy. He's going to be a worse version of James Cook, less efficient. So I'm not worried about him taking away touches, but Ray Davis could take away those red zone touches along with obviously Josh.
Maybe the team's worried about his, his security, longevity, whatever it may be. Either way, I'm picking up some of the signs that the team's putting down, and I'm not taking them at the 4-9.
I will take. We should make a bet. Mason, go ahead, but we should make a bet.
The other old busted running back they brought in last year was Damian Harris.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, they brought him in last offseason too. Yeah.
All right. Well, here I'm gonna go Trey McBride at the 412. Get one of the top tier tight ends. Kyler Murray produces a lot for his targets. There's not really anyone else besides Marvin Harrison Jr., who still will probably have a great season, but is only a rookie. So it's hard to argue against taking Trey McBride and locking down a tight end pretty early. Most of the top tier ones are off the board. There's a couple left. And then as my second pick at the 501, I'm going to go ahead and take Keenan Allen. He just gets a lot of targets. Having Caleb Williams there, Rookie quarterback, he's going to, he might at first rely off of a true proven vet. I mean, DJ Moore is there as well. And then obviously Odunze could take a little longer for Odunze to work in. And Allen, as long as he's healthy, just still should be an absolute target monster. So in redraft, I think in an earlier podcast, I said I wouldn't be taking him this early, but I think my opinion has shifted on that.
He could be the best wide receiver on that team. He really could be. And we don't know. There's too much not to know. And I think DJ Moore is being too highly drafted right now. Or like that the 3-6 for DJ Moore and kind of like a murky waters. I like to take something a little bit more secure at the 3-6.
Yeah, I think DJ Moore and Nico Collins are in a very similar situation. I'm in the midst of doing 100 wide receiver write-ups right now, and Nico Collins and DJ Moore are back-to-back. They also go back-to-back in this draft at 306 and 308. Both have 3 talented wide receivers on the team. I do think that they are both the best athlete on their team. But speaking to the DJ Moore situation, I do think that Keenan Allen's the best route runner. However, DJ Moore is the best after the catch and will do more with the ball downfield. I think that DJ Moore will see the efficiency, but Keenan Allen could see some consistency. Whereas I highly doubt DJ Moore or Rome Odunze are going to be guys you can rely on week in and week out. And it's going to be probably pretty frustrating trying to choose the right week for both DJ Moore and Nico Collins. Similar kind of vein there.
Keenan Allen consistent? Keenan Allen consistent? What?
Yeah, hella consistent.
He's been the most consistent. He's so consistent. He's like named.
Yeah, he's incredible. DJ Moore won't see the consistency. No. But after Mason's pick of Keenan Allen, George Pickens goes off the board. I would have considered him in my second flex position. If we didn't cover that at the beginning, we got 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex, 1 tight end, 6 bench. Pretty standard redraft PPR here, but Mark Andrews right now is one of my favorite values in drafts. We've seen him go off the board in the 2nd or 3rd round the past 2 years. And right now, I just got him at the 504. That's not just because it's 4 of us and 8 bots in here. That is truly around where I've been seeing Mark Andrews go off the board. So I really think that he is going to be one of the best values in drafts. Still only Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, who has already gotten negative reports out of camp. And, incoming rookie Devontae Walker, who I think will take at least a season to develop into what he could be. Love Andrews here. Only person, there are some positive reports, and it's that time of year, but Isaiah Likely has been lighting up camp apparently. I do think that he's a strong tight end 2, one of the stronger tight end 2s in the league, especially with him not being a blocker. He is a receiver. I could see him taking a little bit away from Mark Andrews, but not those important red zone targets. And he's just got the chemistry with Lamar. I think it's one of the best values in redraft. Happy to see Kenneth Walker went right after, so Evan can't take him as a good value. If I didn't take Andrews, I would have considered Walker at the 504. Walker off at 505, Kyle Pitts at 5'6", Tank Dell, Zay Flowers, T. Higgins, Rome Odunze, leaving Evan with the 5'11". You got 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Where are you going here, Evan?
So I got Amari Cooper on the board, top, and then the QBs are starting to go, which is surprising. Anthony Richardson being above Joe Burrow. I get dynasty, but redraft is a little questionable, I think. But I'm going to go Amari Cooper here. I love Cooper, what he's been able to do throughout his career. I mean, he's gonna hit the wall eventually, the age wall. I don't think that this is his year for that, though. So I'm taking him here. I think he's pretty secure, safe this year. And I need more wide receiver depth because I only have 2. So,
yeah. No, I think that's going to add some consistency in comparison to taking Neighbors. Now you got 2 consistent wide receivers, the only wide receiver that has shown any rapport with Deshaun Watson, along with an upside wide receiver, 2 stable running backs. That's a solid start to your draft. Very curious to see where Lee takes it here.
Yeah.
So I'm locked into 1 pick. Evan surprised me a little bit there. Not that I was going to take Cooper as my wide receiver 4 this early, but I am surprised that's the direction he went. So we'll go ahead and knock out the first one. I think there's a severe tier drop after this guy, 1,000 yards, most receiving yards for a tight end last year. So we're going to take George Kittle.
Really quickly, before you jump to the next one, I had put up a poll about George Kittle today, kind of, talking about Brandon Ayuk with him potentially on the way out. In the Superflex Dynasty, how do you view George Kittle's value? Do you consider him a buy, a sell, or a hold? Let me double check on this, but I believe he is 30, going to be playing at 31 this year. But where do you guys see him? Tight ends have a little bit longer shelf life. If Ayuk's traded, we've seen Kittle really step up when any one of those players, whether it be CMC, Debo, or Ayuk, when they're injured, Kittle pops off. If Ayuk is traded, tell me what you think. Is he a buy, sell, or hold if Ayuk is traded? And then also let me know how much that weighs into your opinion if you think Brandon Ayuk truly is going to be traded. Because he could easily stay on the team, and then Kittle's the same boom bust guy.
So I would buy him. And one thing I will say, there is some boom bust, obviously, with the amount in the offense. But if you look at the history, over the last 6 seasons, there was one season he only played 8 games. Outside of that, he finished as the number 5, number 3, number 4, number 2, and number 3 tight end. It's hard to get that level of production. And again, I think there's a big drop-off after. I think, though, once Ayuk is traded, and I think that's happening, I think the price is probably going to be absorbent. So if you want to buy, now would be the time, knowing that ceiling could go up and your floor is a top 5 tight end right now, and maybe a little undervalued because of his age.
Yeah, I think he's a hold for me because I'm holding until Ayuk gets moved. Then I'm selling. He's not a buy for me. He's valued too high for me. I mean, if I can't sell him I'm not going to try to sell him for something cheap. Like, it would have to be at value. I would try to sell him, but I wouldn't buy him at value either. If that makes sense.
Let's say, so you're not trying to buy if he's not on your roster.
Yeah, not trying to buy if he's not on my roster. I'm trying to sell him. I'm trying to sell him if he is on my roster. Because I do think that he's being overvalued right now, and if somebody's willing to pay market price for him, I will take that all day long.
I think he's a buy just because there's that chance Ayuk is gone. Whether it's this year or next year, him or Debo are probably gone. Obviously, Ricky Pearsall, could start coming in, getting some work as well.
That's what I mean. He doesn't even be the clear number 2 option after if Ayuk moves.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say CMC would be the number 2 after Debo,
even
in the receiving game. But I do think that Kittle would be definitely number 3 and would produce enough in this very efficient offense to prove, that he's worth the pick.
Yeah, I mean, he also, I think if you are a contender this year or next year, he's a buy. Any other situation or where you're kind of on the fence, I wouldn't.
That's a good point.
I think if you're really you're looking at your roster and you're like, I got a good potential being a top 4 team, I would buy him.
Okay. All right. Back to the draft. Lee took Kittle at the 5-12. You have 3 wide receivers, 1 running back. He goes, I am surprised. Talk about it.
So, one, I didn't think he was going to get past Evan with the next pick. Maybe he would have. In a single,
I was just talking about how I valued Joe Burrow over him. I was surprised that he would go valued higher than him on.
I think that was a swerve to try to throw me off your scent, Evan.
You took Anthony Richardson. At 601.
Anthony Richardson. And here's the thing. I do think the hype has gotten a little bit out of control. But I definitely, with the rushing upside, he certainly has top 3 quarterback potential. In a single quarterback league, those difference make. You really need a top 6 quarterback to be a difference maker. A 12-team league, there's going to be plenty of guys in that 10 to 15 range that are available, whether it be on waivers or later in the draft. So I don't mind shooting for the stars here. knowing I'm likely going to draft a very competent backup in a little bit. The only pause was the Jonathan Taylor stack, but because he is a rushing quarterback, just pretty much get all the rushing touchdowns for Indianapolis on lock. There have been some rare, instances where a elite rushing quarterback was able to elevate. In most cases, they can hurt the running back, but I can see this being a very run-heavy offense with that offensive line. And, I'm just taking a shot here to try to get a top 3 quarterback this late.
Well, I surprised you on the pick to you, and you surprised me on the pick coming back to me, because I thought for sure you were taking James Conner, and I am for sure taking James Conner. He was so efficient last year. Yes, they brought in Trey, and I'm a little worried about it. I am a little worried about it, but he was so efficient, so effective. I even if this turns into a 50-50 split, which may be better for his career and his longevity and be able to make it through the full season, yeah, sign me up. This dude has proved that he's not hitting a wall. He's getting better.
Too many injuries.
He's going to be hurt like 4 or 5 games this season. It's almost a guarantee. That's law that he gets hurt.
Maybe I'm planning on grabbing another running back here coming up. So, hey.
If you rely on James Conner, he will get injured. If you do not, he will have his season of his life.
Is my running back 3. I'm not really relying on him either.
That's true. Got Pacheco and Barkley. So after James Conner at 602, we got Christian Kirk, Rashee Rice, Joe Burrow, Jordan Addison, Terry McLaurin, and Aaron Jones go off the board here. Let's see. All right. So I have 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, not a ton of value, I feel like, at this point in the draft. At the running back position, it's a little bit, I was talking about how I will need some consistency. Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Waddle, all a little bit more on the boom or bust side of things. I believe we talked about it on this podcast. Chris Godwin reports are he's going to be moved back into the slot. That is where I think he is comfortable. I do think that Baker Mayfield will utilize that. Mike Evans, another year older, as the primary downfield threat. Cade Otton as the tight end, and a couple of pass-catching running backs who will get their work. But I'm not too worried about Jalen McMillan taken away from Chris Godwin, and with Godwin running in the slot primarily this season, I do think that he'll offer a solid baseline and be a great flex situation for my flex 2 spot. After that goes Tony Pollard and Xavier Worthy. Before I forget, Mason, before you take your pick, Evan, me and you have some James Cook to talk. I saw in this draft, he was the RB14 off the board. You said that you still would not have taken him where I took him.
Correct.
I will say he will finish as RB14 or better this season. What do you think about that?
I'll take that.
You'll take that? I like it. I already wrote it down. I made a show, a doc.
You knew I would smash that. You knew it. You wrote it down.
I wrote it down. I knew you'd take that. You sound pretty confident in it, but I can finally get rid of these freaking sticky notes. I got a document for us now, boys. So all of our bets will be in here. I'll give you viewing access, but I'm not giving anybody editing access in case you grimy MFs try to change these bets.
Don't mess with the notes.
That's right.
We'd be able to see who makes every edit. So
that's true. I got physical backups here, but still edited. Lee, what were you about to say?
That was running back 14 or higher. Is that what you said?
Yes, RB14. You want to get in on this?
Yeah. I mean, I would take your side. He was RB12 last year, and I don't see any way he has a worse season than he did last year, especially with a full season of Joe Brady and no Davis, no Diggs, a lot less mouths to feed in that offense.
Yeah, and I'll stand by it if need be, but would you want to go points per game? Probably should have said that up top. Just in case the guy gets injured, I would go points per game. But Evan, I already offered it. If you don't want to take points per game, that's fine.
I will take a additional points per game bet.
I like it. We'll go additional on it.
A little parlay. All right.
All right. So Mason, we got your 6-12 up. So far, you got 2 RBs, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end off the board. I'll recap everyone's picks after this, but who are you taking here?
Right now, I'm kind of debating between 2 guys. Really at the RB position, lock down my third RB. I think I'm going to take the upside and go Swift, just because, I mean, the last 2 picks were Bears, which I don't know if I really like that. But we know traditionally Bears are a running offense. Still haven't had a 4,000-yard passer, which, Caleb
Underrated defense, too, which could support the run game.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, Swift just is one of those guys who he's going to have some big weeks for you. I already got my number 1, number 2 RB locked down. I think having Swift as your number 3 RB is very solid. Obviously, he will probably – one of the weeks you do start him, he will disappoint you. That just is bound to happen. Happened to me plenty of times last year. But as my second one,
he's the most guaranteed guy. He's the most guaranteed guy on that team, I think, right now. There's such murky waters. So I agree. I think it's a great pick. It's a great pick.
The most guaranteed guy on that team.
Like everything else is murky waters. You got a rookie quarterback. You got a new wide receiver room, completely new wide receiver room feels like. And I guess the tight end position, Komet could be more guaranteed. Like you know what to expect from him. But a lot of other things you don't really know what to expect from a lot of those guys. So
quick, just got to give a shout out to the homie Mike Schreiner out here. He figured out how to comment. Hey, congratulations, brother!
Wow.
You made it.
Wow.
He said, "What system does he fit outside of San Fran or Superflex?" I'm not even entirely sure. Hit us up with what the follow up is on that. But you said, "What is your opinion on the Vegas run game this year?" Curious to hear your guys' opinions. I do think Zamir White is going to take the bulk of the workload. We saw what
I know why he's curious about it because he has me. He's trying to figure out what to do with him.
He's got him in our OG Dynasty League.
Well, in that case, I think he's a sell, Mike. I think he's
sell him to me, please, right now. But no, I remember he took Zamir White. I believe it was like 108, 109 a couple drafts ago. At the time, I thought he was insane, but it's coming to fruition.
Like the biggest bust.
White, in my opinion, is going to get at least 200 touches on the ground. He showed that he can at least get a couple of targets per game. Alexander Madison was not what people hoped he would be, and he was in a pretty favorable offense where he could get it done either get it done on the ground or through the air. We've seen a lot of efficiency through Dalvin Cook and Madison when he was an RB2. As soon as he stepped into RB1 role, that went downhill. They did bring in a rookie, Dylan Lobby, and he, I do think, is a better pass catcher than both of them. He could start to eat into that, but I think that will take time for him to get onto the field. I don't think Lobby's a efficient pass blocker.
You ever seen Lobby take an interview?
I have not.
Never met the guy, don't know the guy, but he sounds like an idiot, to be honest.
You know what? Well, we'll come to see how it plays out, but
I'll have to throw
Schreiner, I think that you're in the clear here. Zamir White is going to be, it's going to be fruitful for you a couple years after the draft pick, but I do think that this is going to be the year. I'll take away that trade request I was about to send you.
Dude, I swear he's like this Lobby guy. He's like a frat bro. He's like just a total frat bro.
And I mean, he went to some scrub college too. What was it, like New Hampshire or something like that?
I gotta send you guys this interview.
I'm interested. But all right, Mason. Sorry to cut you off there. 701. Who you got?
Might be a little bit of a reach, but I do think he's gonna have a nice little rebound year. I'm gonna go Deontay Johnson. I think that entire Carolina team's going to bounce back. Bryce Young was going.
Yeah, and so this is perfect timing. We just talked about it. This is where I take Zamir White. I, generally speaking, reach for him one round because I do think that he is going to have a higher market share of the running back touches than the other running backs on the board. Some other running backs around that area, Najee Harris, Nick Chubb, Raheem Mostert, Javonte Williams, Jonathan Brooks, which is one of the other guys that I do tend to reach on in the 7th here. Jonathan Brooks, I think once he comes back from injury, will be good to go and be heavily involved in the running game and probably the passing game as well. However, with a little bit of that injury scare still mixed in, coming off an ACL injury from later in the collegiate season last year, I'm going to take Zamir White. After Zamir White goes Jaden Reed, Najee Harris, Evan Ingram, Jake Ferguson, Nick Chubb, and Brock Bowers. I do think this is a little early for Ferguson and Bowers, but we're working with some bots. Next time around, we'll get some live people in this draft to let you know how things are really panning out. But Evan, up with a 7-11. What do you got here?
7-11. Ooh, free Slippery Day. Let's go. All right. I'm going to do – we got Dak on the board, Hollywood Brown, Calvin Ridley, Kyler Murray, Raheem Mostert, Jordan Love, Njoku. It's just kind of a mess of guys right now. And I don't really love any of them except for the quarterback position. I do love a guy who I think has, top 5 potential, especially with
Jordan
the new
Love.
weapon on his offense. New weapon on his offense. So definitely not.
Kyler Murray.
Yes, Mr. Kyler Murray. And he's got the legs. In redraft, I'm taking this all day long. 7-11. Happy with it.
Oh, and Lee wastes no time. Raheem Mostert, immediate pick. I love it. We talked about it earlier. I think he's going to be still probably leading the team in carries and definitely red zone touches. Do you want to talk about that more, Lee?
I mean, needed a running back here in that offense. The amount of touchdowns he was able to score last year. Obviously expecting a little bit of regression, but what was it, 18 touchdowns last season?
18 touchdowns. Most in his career by 10.
Tiny bit of regression. Tiny bit.
Tiny, but I mean, I would still take him over James Conner even at this point in the draft.
Wow. Bonkers.
He's a guy who might be.
You forgot who Achan was.
I mean, Trey Benson's there. Achan, he's a change of pace back. He's not going to be he doesn't have the size to be an every down back.
So you're not confident enough to draft rookies, but you're worried about the rookies eating some
No, I'm more worried about James Conner's injury history more than anything. But also just like I said, I think that's a different offense this year with Marvin Harrison coming in. I just don't see Conner getting the workload in the pass game like he got last year. That was a lot of his value and the injury. But I'm just going to bank on, even with regression, 10 to 12 touchdowns for Mostert at this point in the draft is all I would be thrilled with. Anything more than that, by all means. And then I'm going to secure the position. That's only my second running back. So we're going to take a third one right here to kind of balance it out. And this is a guy who I'm not going to need early, but I do expect him to finish really strong later in the season. So Jonathan Brooks with my next pick.
Yeah, it's insane that he even made it to the 8th round, albeit the 801, but that's insane. I think that's a great pick there, and it really helps your team as you only had the 2 running backs on the board. Jonathan Taylor, steady RB1, Raheem Mostert, so much upside staying in that role that he could potentially stay in. But Jonathan Brooks will shore up Raheem Mostert's start, and Jonathan Brooks' end to the season is going to pair up well for you.
See,
Evan,
I would have taken Javonte over both those backs.
Oh, my God.
I disagree.
He's a slug.
I love Javante's potential rebound, but last season didn't show it. Brought in a goal line back, already have a pass catcher on roster, and Audric Estime is the new rookie that's a goal line back. Jaleel McLaughlin looked like so explosive last season. Could truly take over some of the between the 20s work. And then, Samaje Perine's still there. He's an efficient pass catcher, much more efficient than Javonte was. I think the difference was something around 10 yards per catch to 5 yards per catch. That is a massive difference.
He was coming off of the injury. That was like a coming off injury year. I think he bounces back.
The biggest argument for Javonte is that he was coming off the injury. He was rushed back into it. If you guys remember the beginning. Evan, make your pick. I'll talk about Javonte in a second.
Yeah. All right. So for my pick, I'm going Ladd McConkey. another potential wide receiver one for a team. And Calvin Ridley would have been the wide receiver I'd take if I felt like it.
Yeah, so you go McConkey. I love that pick. Ridley, Hollywood Brown, Javonte Williams, Dak Prescott, Austin Eckler, Brian Thomas next off the board. I'm here at the 809. I already got my 4 wide receivers, 2 running backs, no quarterback, 1 tight end. Quarterbacks on the board, Jordan Love, who is tempting, even though I'm still not a huge believer of. I'm going to go and shore up this running back room. I've talked about him a lot over the offseason. I believe Zach Moss is the guy in Cincinnati. Mason, I see that head rock back. I know you're a Chase Brown over Zach Moss guy, along with Tyler, our CEO here. And yeah, I just couldn't disagree more. But, each their own. I do see Chase Brown as the more explosive player. However, Zach Moss is basically a price right version of Joe Mixon. And they've shown that they're willing to go Joe Mixon, even if he's at 3.9 per carry, as long as they got a guy back there that can protect Joe Burrow and not take negative plays. As long as you can keep it moving forward, I think Zach Moss will be the goal line running back, will end up with more receptions, and overall just be the RB1 in Cincinnati.
Well, my head also went back because I was going to take Jordan Love as well.
And then he goes 1 pick before you. Oh, that is tough.
I'm going to stick with quarterback and go Purdy.
Dang.
I think he is one of the better ones still there. And I also do have Christian McCaffrey, so that pretty much locks down me getting points for every single Niners touchdown. I do kind of like that.
Yeah.
And then my next one is a little more tough. I think I'm going to go ahead and take Keon Coleman with just the upside of being Josh Allen's number 1 wide receiver, taking him in, what is this, the 9th round. I just think there's a ton of upside there. I mean, he is a rookie, so there is a lot of risk as well. But there's just not a ton of target competition. Kincaid's really the only one that has any connection. Shakir as well, but Shakir's not an elite guy by any means. So I just think that Keon Coleman, there's a lot of upside.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a great pick there. Wide receiver 1 potential for sure.
Yeah. So to talk through the picks quickly, I'm looking at Jaylen Warren. Devin Singletary will get fed, but I just can't trust that he's going to be efficient in the Giants offense that Saquon struggled to be average in as an elite talent. At wide receiver, taking Christian Watson as my wide receiver 5 is appealing. He was targeted as the wide receiver 1 when he returned to action last season. However, that wide receiver room is young and talented, and anyone can really climb their way to the top. Already got my tight end, so not going there. I am going to take Jaylen Warren. I think that the Steelers have already said it with the money that they are not extending Najee. They're going to ride both of these contracts out in their final year, ride the hot hand. Jaylen Warren has a chance to take over as RB1, and he's been insanely efficient. After Mason's pick of Keon Coleman, we got JSN, Trey Benson, me with Jaylen Warren, David Njoku, Christian Watson, Caleb Williams, Devin Singletary, Gus Edwards, and Dallas Goedert. Evan takes Tyjae Spears at the 9-11. That's your RB4. Ooh, yep. And that's who I would have went with. Lee takes it. I'm not even going to call it a homer pick because Brian Robinson at the 9-12 is insane.
I thought about it, but my homer sense, like Austin Eckler going there, like Austin, that is, if he's in that backfield, it's hard to get points outside of it. Like it's hard to get points if you're not him in that backfield.
He's a third down back.
Yeah,
Tony Pollard is much more viable at this point in his career than Austin Eckler is as far as taking away juice from. I mean, look at the contracts. Look at the money Tony Pollard's getting, and look at what Austin Eckler's getting in Washington.
He's older too.
Yeah, I mean,
my big concern
was great for Herbert. He checked down a decent amount, especially with all the wide receiver injuries. outside of Austin Eckler, there was Isaiah Spiller, Joshua Kelly. I feel like I'm missing another running back that is also forgettable. Brian Robinson has shown that he can get the job done. He was actually really efficient in the pass game last year. Definitely going to be the red zone running back over Eckler. Even though Eckler has been efficient in the past in the red zone, it was forced on him after they tried many other options. On top of it, really quick, Jaden Daniels, rushing quarterback. He's not going to be checking down. He's going to be taking off. So I don't see the value in Austin Eckler in comparison to Robinson. That being said, Daniels could take away a few rushing touchdowns, but I like Robinson at 9-12. That's insane.
I've already been on the record. I love Curtis Samuel this year. I feel like he is a great lottery ticket and very likely going to be the wide receiver one in Buffalo. Taking him in the 10th round, I'm thrilled with the upside at my wide receiver 4.
Well, I love wide receiver ones, and I'm going to take another wide receiver one here, Cortland Sutton.
Okay. I was looking at the wide receivers on the board. I was like, who are you talking about? Like the only name you could have grabbed there that made sense. He takes Sutton at the 10:02. Adonai Mitchell goes 10:03. Dalton Schultz, Tua Tagovailoa, Romeo Dobbs, TJ Hawkinson off the ACL, late season ACL. Jameson Williams right before me. I now have a pretty balanced roster. I have 4 running backs, 4 wide receivers, 1 tight end. Ideally, I am going quarterback here, and I just talked about the rushing upside. I'm grabbing Jaden Daniels in the 10th. It's an upside pick. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We'll move on and stream quarterbacks, one of the most streamable positions. Happy to be able to grab him here in the 10th with so much upside. Jared Goff goes next. Pat Freiermuth at 10-11, and Mason up with a 10-12. What you got here, brother?
Well, I got to back myself up. He's either going to be my 4th flex or, depending on how Keon Coleman does, a nice guy to take off the bench. I'm going to go Jacoby Myers. I got to take him.
You love it. We can't end the draft without taking Jacoby.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like it says under my name right here, it says Jacoby Myers enthusiast. I love that dude. Finished as wide receiver 24. So, I mean, if he does that and he's my wide receiver 4 or 5, I'm happy with it. And, he's got mustache man Gardner Minshew thrown to him now. So, you know how that's going to go. It's just going to go up. Okay. And then I'm going to back myself up again and go Chase Brown.
Okay.
Yeah.
in
these rounds, I'm more looking for the upside.
Would you take a Chase Brown versus Zach Moss bet straight up?
Points per game?
Points per game, yes.
Yeah.
Love it. Anyone else want in on the action?
I'm very well noted that I'm on the Zach Moss side of this by a lot.
I will take a side when I take a side in my own head. It's such a 50-50 for me. I will take a side though eventually.
No worries. All right, so this is one of my other favorite value picks. Happy to see him drop here. I'm taking Jerome Ford. Nick Chubb coming off of that nasty knee injury. That is no joke. Jerome Ford proved that he can do it. Ton of coach talk coming out from Kevin Stefanski, talking about why they did not add more running backs in the draft through free agency. All they brought in was Deontay Foreman, and I think that he is just going to fill that the rushing side of Kareem Hunt's work. He's going to be the short yardage guy in on 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, and short goal line opportunities. Jerome Ford gets it done in the passing game, is efficient on a yards per carry basis. Love Jerome Ford for the first half of the season. Evan and Lee, make your picks really quick. I'm just going to show the board. Check us out on YouTube, and then we'll wrap it up for the Atlanta broadcast.
Another wide receiver one, Xavier Legette.
Ooh, spicy.
He might not be the wide receiver 4 there. I mean, the wide receiver 3. He may be the 4.
Wide receiver 3, yeah. But, Lee, you got your 11-12 here.
Okay.
Matthew Stafford is the backup to Anthony Richardson. Thank you guys for joining us out in Atlanta. If you want to see the last 3 rounds of this draft, to see the finalized teams here, please go check us out on YouTube. We really do appreciate it. everybody out there, have a great week. We'll continue it a little bit here on the YouTube channel. Finish out this draft. Lee, just to recap the picks really quick. After I took Jaden Daniels, we said Jared Goff, Pat Freiermuth, Mason takes Jacoby Myers and Chase Brown. Zeke, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. Do you think that Zeke will end the season with more touches, not carries, but touches, than Rico Dowdle? Curious to hear that. Before I kick it to one of y'all, though, we got Blake Corum going at 11:03. I took Jerome Ford at 11:04. Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence off the board. After some down seasons, I do think that they are values at this point of the draft. If you guys want to punt quarterback, take them late. I'm all about that strategy. After that, Tyler Lockett at 11:07. Cole Kmet, Kirk Cousins, Mike Williams, and then Evan takes Xavier Legette, and Lee takes Matthew Stafford. Who's got a take on Zeke versus Dowdle here?
I mean, I think Zeke will get more touches. Zeke doesn't really have much of his efficiency has been awful. Last year, he had some decent fantasy numbers in a couple weeks just because that Patriots offense was awful and he got a good amount of receptions. Yes. So I think fantasy-wise, like as points per game, I don't know if he'll do better than Dowdle, but I do think the touches will be there. Dowdle hasn't proven anything. Zeke at least has proven a lot in the past. So I think that will just lead to him having more carries. I think the entire Dallas team is going to be very pass-heavy again. And I don't know. They're both crapshoots. So, but at this point in the draft, they're decent crapshoots.
Okay. I don't know. I think that I don't think that this was like Dallas bringing them back in. Like, oh, we missed you. We made a mistake. We come back. Like this was like he knows the system. You know, if these guys that we have in place don't work out, at least we'll be able to throw them in there. I think it was more of like a move like that, and I don't expect him to see more touches than Rico Dowdle.
They both suck.
So no value out of the Cowboys backfield.
I think there's a decent chance that another person is brought in, whether it be training camp cuts. A guy who I would not be surprised. So we'll make a little prediction. I think Samaje Perine ends up in Dallas. He played at Oklahoma. It's an overcrowded backfield with the Broncos, and if he were there, I would take him over Zeke and Dowdle in that backfield.
Overcrowded backfield. Javonte was out early last year, wasn't he? Didn't Samaje have like the first part of the year to?
Oh, Javonte was there for 21.
Oh yeah.
That's actually what I digressed off of. Javonte, there was the whole rumors that he was going to miss the first at least quarter of the season or so. He came back. He played a little bit of preseason even, and I think arguably to his detriment. I think he could have used a little bit more time recovering to get truly back to 100%. And then they could have eased him in kind of like the Jets did Breece Hall. I think that would have been a better game plan for them, especially with them having such a heavy target share to the running back position. I'll pull that up right now. But here we got Lee with his 1201 here. What do you got, Lee?
I want to jump in real quick on that Cowboys conversation. Deuce Vaughn is also maybe a little sneaky little candidate to kind of feed in. Yes. I don't know as much, though, because they've been working him at the slot at camp.
Yes.
So, I mean, he's getting more targets. That could make him the best running back out of that backfield.
Evan just went from 6 to 12.
You're speaking on my team. I drafted Deuce in our Ranters Anonymous League. You're like, Evan has the worst team. He's like, oh, he snipes me on the McCaffrey. He snipes me, or he likes Deuce Vaughn. Like, well, I don't understand. Make up your mind on my team, Mason. Make up your mind.
Because you're sniping me in the late rounds. The early round picks are bad.
That is a crazy
snipes a
1 to 2 here. There's a whole lot of middle between.
I totally agree with what your takes though on Vaughn, and him working out of the slot is very interesting and appealing to me. So I wanted to take a shot on that.
He's tiny.
I don't see that. CeeDee Lamb dominates the slot. He is like the top wide receiver that is in the elite tier that ran by far the most routes from the slot position. They're not moving him out of the slot for frickin' Deuce Vaughn.
Everybody that is calling him tiny is just fueling him. So keep calling him tiny, Lee. Keep calling
him tiny. He's on the team because his dad's a scout. He wouldn't even be on the team.
Keep fueling him. Keep fueling his fire.
in a heartfelt moment, I do cheer for him. I hope he has success. I don't think it's just going to happen. It's not.
He's a special player.
If there was ever a year for it,
practice
this is the year. There's tons of opportunity ahead of him. And really quick, touching on the Javonte, the Broncos targeted the running back position 32.1% of their team targets to anybody. That was most in the league by 5.6%. That is a ton. The next, they were ahead of the third place spot by 7.6%. That's insane. They just threw the ball. They checked down so frequently. If Cortland Sutton isn't open, it's a check down. To be fair, Greg Dulcich was out. They didn't have a lot of talent. Jerry Jeudy was a scrub. And then the Browns, of course, go and pay him like $18 million a year. Thank you, Browns. Lee?
So I hear you on that, but I mean, that was Russell Wilson. Different offense. He's scared to death to throw the ball, throwing interceptions. And I hear you on the injury, Evan. I mean, that is the one hope. But and maybe I'm off here. Maybe this logic is completely wrong. But if it were just the injury last year, wouldn't you have expected him to get better later in the season as he was more recovered? Just to read off a couple of numbers, from week 10 on, it was 3.7 yards a carry, 3.3, 3.6, 3.5, 3.8, 2.2, 2.1, 2.7, 3.5. Those are not NFL running backs.
Hey, point out with those weeks you exactly pointed out. Name one week where he's under 10 points.
Under 10 points?
Week 17, week 15.
The majority of them.
Week 11.
Week 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17.
I'm seeing week 18 as his only week under.
Are you guys talking about the same player?
Javonte Williams.
Oh, yeah. 15 had 12 carries for 27 yards.
You said week 11 on, right?
How is that 18 points?
You said week 11 on?
From week 10 on.
So
week 15 is literally one of the worst deadlines I've ever seen.
Evan, are you looking at the projections instead of the finishes?
The standard.
In Sleeper, the highlighted column is the projection.
Yep. Dude, I'm not usually working off the laptop here. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I love Sleeper across everything. I will say it's frustrating that their mobile version is pretty vastly different look than their regular version. You can see the RB finishes in your specific league format on the mobile version. You cannot see that on your laptop. But Javonte had at least almost all weeks after week 10, at least 3 targets, a couple weeks with 2s mixed in there, up to 6, up to 9. He had 2 weeks with a negative yardage at the receiver position. He had his yards per reception or yards per catch, 4.85. Samaje Perine last year at 27, 28 years old, 8.13 yards per catch. They're in the same system. I don't understand why Javonte gets such a high volume without being able to turn that into, a decent yards per catch. Maybe it was the injury. Maybe he bounces back. He was listed as the RB1 for a reason in Dynasty 2-3 years ago. However, we're not at that point anymore. So, oh crap, Evan. Oh no, we talked about.
I auto-draft. I auto-picked.
I paused it.
Who did I auto-pick
right.
on? Oh, okay.
But we need your pick now.
Yeah, we do need my pick. All right, so my pick going into this one is going to be Kendre Miller. But I can't draft him because
I got you. Let's see. All right, so yeah, I think that Kendre Miller's got the high upside as far as RB2s go. There's a high likelihood that this guy is going, like, Kamara had his least efficient season last year. Not chalking up well. Next year, he's a clear cap casualty. And I do think that Kendre Miller would be more efficient on the ground with the same amount of touches. It's kind of crazy to say just because of where Kamara's been all of his life as an efficiency monster. But that's where we're at right now. Kamara's getting older, and he's not, unless he sees that same ridiculous target share that he had last year, it's not going to happen again for him this year. So I like that as a high upside bet. So I'm up on my pick now after Kendre Miller, Zach Charbonnet, Khalil Shakir, Jalen Wright, Josh Downs, Troy Franklin, Jerry Jeudy. I am more confident in my wide receivers as I took them as my first 3 picks, as I am my running backs. Ordinarily, I truthfully would go Jaleel McLaughlin here, but I know Mason's got Josh Jacobs, and he took Marshawn Lloyd from me in our real life dynasty draft. So I at least have to get him back on that much here. You don't get your handcuff, Mason. I take Marshawn Lloyd. Luke Musgrave and Gabe Davis after that. Mason, what do you got here at the 12-12 pick? Would you have taken Marshawn Lloyd if he was available?
No way.
Doesn't even matter. You can say that all you want.
He's like waiting for the yes.
I sniped you.
Yes.
You mother.
No, you did. Okay, hold up. Let me cook real quick.
Let him cook.
We'll be here until Saturday waiting on Mason to cook.
All right. Well, I'm gonna take Brandon Cooks. He's wide receiver 2 for Dallas, and like I was saying earlier, that is probably gonna be a very passing heavy team again because there's not really a ton of running back support. But as my next one, it might be a little bit of a reach, but I've been liking him. He's been looking good in training camp. I'm gonna take Braylon Allen. There's been a ton of great reports so far. He's probably the number one that has stand out to me on good reports.
Yep.
So I think that a lot of good reports on his passing game and that receiving game. Sorry, I don't think he's going to necessarily touch the ball too much on the ground as far as running the ball, just because Breece Hall is probably going to be a workhorse. He's going to be fully healthy this season. But I think this late there is a lot of upside. He could be Rodgers' little dump down target, check down target, and if Breece Hall does get injured, I think Braylon Allen could just be an absolute monster.
Yeah, 100%. I could see him getting some of the goal line work. They've been talking. I don't know if you just touched on this. Honestly, my mouth is watering over Josh Palmer right now.
My God.
Love it. Love that pick.
No.
He is by far my most drafted best ball pick. I've done 30 drafts so far. He is rostered in over 50% of my leagues. Love Josh Palmer. I think that he has a true chance to be Justin Herbert's downfield target. Ladd McConkey, he can do it at all points on the field. I do think he will be the target leader. However, Josh Palmer is the only guy with a proven rapport with Justin Herbert on this team. And I think that Josh Palmer, even though it looks kind of pedestrian over, a week-to-week basis, the guy gets the job done. It just like he's going to score between 10 to 15, 16 points for you most weeks. And that's only been when we've seen him without Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Now they are forever off the team. No solid tight end, no Austin Eckler to take away in the pass game. In fact, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, I don't think have ever gotten over 30 targets in the season. I can fact check that, but I think that the targets are going to Joshua Palmer, and I will take Justin Herbert's number 1 downfield threat.
Love it.
Nope. Hate it. Not big on Justin Herbert, or not big on Josh Palmer. I'm big on Justin Herbert. But
when we do, if we do it, like we were talking about earlier, if we do a redraft mock where we're teaming up, I think me and Lee have to be on the same team, and then Evan and Mason have to be on the same team, because there is just a clear, understanding in the guys that we value. I feel like in comparison to the other.
But that wouldn't be Rant Anonymous,
I get what you're saying. There's going to be more arguments if we go the other way.
Who wants to watch a show where everybody agrees on everything?
That's true. We'll figure it out as we go here.
That's why I'm saying me and Lee got to be together because we're opposite. You know what I mean?
Oh my god! It's
We're gonna flip a coin to decide things. Like we're not.
I'm just trying to.
I want to create a black hole. I want to create a damn black hole from our yin and yang in.
Not a doctor here, but I believe cortisol is that stress hormone. If me and Evan we're co-managing like on a mock draft, I am just gonna be stressed the fuck out the entire goddamn draft. So,
every other pick is in my hands.
It's in a rookie. Every other pick is a rookie. And speaking of, your last 2 wide receiver picks, you got rookies off the board. Leggett and Pearsall here at the 13-11. Did you take Pearsall with the hope that Ayuk is traded?
For sure.
Okay, and I
that is me drafting at this point in the year.
Yeah, no, I could totally see that. I even grabbed Juwan Jennings off the waiver wire in one of our shallower dynasty leagues.
I mean, I knew Lee was going to do it just because he takes any opportunity to take a jab at Mason as possible. So I had to take that away from him just so that way I'm not going to rub it in Mason's face like Lee would. So
there are like 3 or 4 Masons in the private chat here. Every time you've heard Mason or seen Mason go, oh.
I'm just trying to get in Mason's good graces after we're going to be drafting together.
Mason in the private chat. Just some good old mock draft shit talking. But Lee, you got the last 2 picks of your draft here. We'll recap it after we finish it off. But where are you going here?
So real quick, I just wanted to comment on my last pick. After the Marshawn Lloyd, you took him to keep away the handcuff. That is a big question. And there's 2 sides of that conversation. People that are just very stringent handcuff. They always like to handcuff their top back. Sometimes I'll see people even handcuff their top 2 backs. I, in general, am not a handcuff guy. I feel like you shoot for the ceiling with these drafts and your teams, and you're limiting yourself. You're only going to have one position to really be able to contribute and be that guy for you if you're drafting 2 running backs off the same team. However, I did take a handcuff with my last pick. I took Chuba Hubbard, and the reason being is I see value for both guys at different points in the season.
Right, kind of like a Jerome Ford, Nick Chubb situation.
Right. I think it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks before we really see Jonathan Brooks. Chuba Hubbard looked pretty good last year when he took the role over. Really just looking for that solidified running back 3-4. And I feel like the first 6 to 8 weeks, Hubbard gives it to me. And then the last part of the season, Brooks gives it to me. Assuming Brooks takes the role, at some point, Chuba's probably a drop candidate. But I think he's a start candidate for at least those first 6 weeks as Brooks is still recovering and coming back from the injury. So we'll see. But to me, if I'm going to handcuff a guy, I need to be able to see standalone value for both at least some point in the season. And I think there's a decent chance Marshawn Lloyd doesn't see the field a ton. It's just a change of pace, a guy that, I think he really needs that Jacobs injury to really be a value in fantasy.
To pop, I agree. That's why I prefaced it with, I would have taken Jaleel McLaughlin, who is still on the board somehow. But I would have taken Jaleel McLaughlin. I think he has a chance to overtake Javonte if he shows that he's going to keep up the the efficiency from last year. But had to take a shot at trying to snipe Mason here. So Lee, you got your I love it because you're always so nonchalant about it. Really quick, my 13-12, really quick, fuck Mason. And
all right, so we're going to take a shot at a wide receiver one, a rookie. We'll see what happens in New England. I feel like there's a ton of guys that could be the wide receiver one.
Yeah,
somebody's going to be the guy, and it could be Pop Douglas, but Polk's got a lot of potential. So we're going to throw him on the team at the back end of the roster, and to finish the roster off.
Lee talking trash about my rookies on my team. Yeah, drafts another one on my team from
the 14th round or 13th round.
I know, and I got him later in Dynasty, I think.
This isn't Dynasty.
While Lee's figuring out that last pick there too, I do agree with what you're saying. A, take a handcuff if you think that they are going to be valuable at different parts of the season. Also, B, take a handcuff if they are both later in the draft. We just saw Lee take Chuba Hubbard at 1201. He got Jonathan Brooks at 801. Both are pretty low risk at this point at those points in the draft. You're not going to be relying on either of those guys as a starting running back on your roster, and both of them could produce at a high level. Love the last pick as well. He goes with Tracy, the rookie running back out of for the Giants, came out of Purdue. Right now, ahead of him, just Devin Singletary. Maybe if you're, very high on, I was trying to buy time because I'm blanking on his name. He didn't do anything in his rookie season. Watch me fact check.
Eric Gray.
Eric Gray. Yep, Eric Gray.
Yeah, Eric Gray. I do like Eric Gray.
Eric Gray, another like low cost potential dynasty buy. Overall, I do think that Tracy would have more value being a pass catching, elusive running back. I think that he
converted wide receiver.
Yeah, right. Yes, he was a wide receiver. I believe he was also a fifth-year grad. I think the first 4 years of his career, he was wide receiver, turned into a running back at the later part of the fourth year going into fifth. Really started to see the work from the running back position at that point. Purdue's not a powerhouse school by any means, but they play decent enough competition for it not to be, just waved off. I think Tracy has a chance to overtake, and if you don't see it in the first 2-3 weeks, cut bait, move on. It's a 14th round pick, so no big deal there.
Just to balance, how you balance your roster. I took 3 wide receivers in the first 4 picks, only 1 running back in my first 6 picks, so that's why I ended up with 6 running backs. Load up the back end a little bit more wherever you're not the strongest.
Yeah, I like that. So after that, Evan, you took Hunter Henry at the 1402.
I did need a tight end.
Did you not have a single tight? Wow, that is truly punting tight end until the end. If you're on YouTube, you can see the roster Evan's gone with. Took Hunter Henry at the end. I do think if you're going to punt tight end, Henry's a solid option of the guys that were available. He's a red zone threat. They don't have another truly big man on the roster there. Nobody threatening at the tight end 2 position. Javon Baker, Jalen Polk, Demario Douglas, all under 6'2". Hunter Henry can get it done. If he stays healthy, he'll be a boomer bust tight end for you, and you'll just stream the position the rest of the year. So understandable there. I do think I probably would have went with a Dalton Schultz in the 10th, even taking TJ Hawkinson, knowing that he's going to be out for 8 to 10 weeks potentially. But if you get him there and you end up going even 500 through the first 8 or 10 weeks, now you know that you have a chance of making the playoffs and then making a run in the playoffs with a guy like TJ Hawkinson on the team. That's just my take. Does anybody else have a take regarding punting tight end this late?
I hate it.
It's a take for sure.
I just think I think at the very top end you may get a tight end 10 to 12. But if in a 12-team redraft, if you don't have a top 6 tight end, you basically punted the position anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. My last position, really quick before I kick it off to y'all, Jake Ferguson. He went early in this draft at 708. I think Jake Ferguson is the last of a tier for me until I would do exactly what Evan did and just wait until the very last pick. I'm going to stop talking though. Mason, what do you have to say about that?
I don't have much to say. I'm just looking at this next pick.
All right. So for my next pick, after Hunter Henry at 1402 goes Tyler Algier, Quentin Johnston, Jaleel McLaughlin, Cade Otton, Ray Davis, and I got to click on this one. I don't remember his first name. Kamani Vidal. I do think that he's got a shot being with a couple of, just a bruiser. He's a rookie running back for the Chargers. Vidal has a bare minimum shot if J.K. Dobbins continues to not be able to stay on the field. Gus Edwards, mainly a goal line back. Vidal has some pass catching experience at the collegiate level. But yes, I will. With my last pick, I took Jaden Daniels in the 10th round. I want somebody else that also has upside. I could go with the baseline type quarterback in Baker Mayfield or Geno Smith. Deshaun Watson has some rushing upside. J.J. McCarthy has Justin Jefferson. However, I think that Will Levis has been the offseason built around him. He's got Calvin Ridley now, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd, 2 pass-catching running backs, and an uber-athletic tight end. If he doesn't pan out in the first couple of games, I move on immediately. Again, that's what you're doing here in the 13th round. You're taking upside. If they pan out, continue to – you can either deal them or roster them throughout the season. I'll take Will Levis with that upside, and if he doesn't pan out, we'll cut bait and move on. Roman Wilson. So what's up?
Did you just draft 3 quarterbacks?
No, just 2.
Okay. Oh, you're good. You're good. I like it. Never mind.
Yeah.
I love the pick.
I would never.
I
would never. So
right.
Roman Wilson and Roquan Johnson are the next 2 picks. Mason, cap it off with the 14-12 here. Who you got?
The best quarterback in the league.
Baker
Coming
Mayfield.
right up here.
I knew it.
Big man. Got to get my boy.
Oh, man. If you had some type of – oh, you do. You got the Mike Evans stack. Well,
yeah, that's also what was making me really want to it. And I got to, around my desk area, I don't really have a ton on it. The few things I do have is I have like 3 Baker Mayfield cards just sitting here watching over me during every single stream. So, I got to take Baker Mayfield.
I don't know if Schreiner's still watching out there, but he gave me this little, what is it, pop pad, Juco pop, something like that. I'm not big into those things, but I do appreciate some headband Baker Mayfield action here. Accompany me at the desk. I love Baker. However, I am just not as confident in his production without Dave Canales calling the plays there. What do you guys think about that, though? There's a first-time play caller. Technically, he was the offensive coordinator, I think 2 years ago for the Rams. I'm blanking on his name right now, but what do you guys think about the new OC in Tampa? Is it going to really have effect on Baker? Is it going to have an effect on Mike Evans? Mason, they were your picks, so why don't you lead it?
Baker, yeah. Love my Baker Mayfield. Obviously, I don't even know why you asked me. You know what I'm going to say. He's going to do great. He was QB 10 last year. I see him being a top 12 quarterback again. Obviously, like you're saying, different play calling.
Top 10?
Top 12. He was 10 last year.
Yeah, but he had Dave Canales there, a little bit younger Mike Evans. I don't know, man. First 4,000-yard passing season, career high in passing touchdowns, just under the career high in rushing yards by 2 yards. I don't know if I see it there for Baker this season. But that's just me. What do you guys think?
Just keep hating on him. Just keep hating on him. He loves the doubters.
I think that's a decent floor pick, but I don't know with having Purdy. I mean, I feel like that's really just injury insurance, and I don't mind taking a ceiling pick here. And as much as I hate to say it, maybe one of the rookies, because Purdy's pretty steady. I like a little bit more boom or bust with my backup if I have that steady of a starter. So, I mean, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May, Bo Nix, even Bryce Young, I feel like if Purdy's my QB1, I think I'd rather have one of those guys. If Anthony Richardson is my QB1, I'd rather have Baker Mayfield in that situation. So I think it's.
I agree with that. I would
maybe
really
I would
quickly
Baker over Purdy because Bakeman gonna bake.
That is
No
wild.
way.
That is just wild. No matter the take here.
I'm a Niners. No, I would never bench Purdy.
I was gonna say.
I agree with the first 2 names that you brought up, Lee. I would take Drake May and JJ McCarthy over Mayfield right now in a redraft as the last pick for an upside pick in this situation. Both of them have much higher rushing upside. I do think that Mayfield offers a better baseline, but like we said, since Purdy's the first quarterback on the team, he offers that baseline. I would take the rushing upside of the either two, but I would not take Bryce Young, and I'm blanking on the other name that you said.
Bo Nix.
Who is it?
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix. I like Bo Nix. I just don't. I like him more for the NFL than I do for fantasy. I think that he's going to be a reliable guy with a high completion percentage and low interception rate that will help the Broncos win some games. But I don't think that he's going to be a guy that helps your fantasy team a whole lot. Personally,
I disagree. I think he will. I think he's going to be all right. I'm saying that as a stake owner. I mean, Mason, you're a stake owner too. What do you think of Bo Nix?
Bo Nix? I mean, he's offensive rookie of the year. I don't know how much I got man.
You heard it here first.
Come on now.
All right.
I agree.
So, if you guys are on the YouTube, which I think you can only be at this point pretty much, or Twitter, you guys see the board. Here is our final teams. We'll kick it one by one. Mason, why don't you go position by position and talk about the team you have here in this mock draft?
So, my team, my quarterbacks, Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield, 2 nice players. I feel like I got Christian McCaffrey as my running back 1, which, he's good enough to win you weeks. And I think when you got him, you want a lot of guys who have really good floors. Josh Jacobs, I think, is going to blow up in that Green Bay offense. And, he might not be as much of a workhorse as he has been, but he's still going to get a lot of value touches. Then I got DeAndre Swift, Chase Brown, Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen upside pick, Chase Brown upside pick because he is RB1 in Cincinnati, at least after week 4. And then at the wide receiver position, I got Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, Keon Coleman, Jacoby Myers, Brandon Cooks. Tight end, I just drafted one. I went Trey McBride. When I spend an early pick on a tight end like that, I don't necessarily even think about drafting the backup because, at this point, I'm just – the only time I'm going to start anyone else is Trey McBride's bye week, and at that point, I'll just cut someone and, just grab someone for the week.
Yeah, and, you touched on this earlier, but having Christian McCaffrey is just insanely valuable. This is in ESPN leagues only, but last year, 58.9% of championships had Christian McCaffrey on the roster. That is insane. That's just in and of itself a cheat code. If you're the 101, grab Christian McCaffrey, never question it. Doesn't matter that he's running back and has a higher chance of getting injured. He rides teams to the championship. So to kick off my team, I got Jaden Daniels and Will Levis at quarterback. At wide receiver, I have Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Waddle, Chris Godwin, and Joshua Palmer. At running back, James Cook, Zamir White, Zach Moss, Jalen Warren, Jerome Ford, and Marshawn Lloyd. And at tight end, I got Mark Andrews. Very happy with this team. Very interested to see where these polls take us. But Evan, why don't you kick it off next? Who you got on your roster?
I got Garrett Wilson, Saquon Barkley, Pacheco.
Go position by position, like everybody else.
Yeah. My bad. I was going to. All right, so starting with quarterback, we're going Kyler Murray. Then wide receiver, what order did you guys even go? I don't even know which order we went.
The natural order of progression, sir.
We will go wide receiver. Garrett Wilson was my first wide receiver taken and my first pick in the first round. And the Malik Neighbors was my second pick for wide receiver. And then I got Amari Cooper as my third pick for wide receiver. And then Ladd McConkey as my fourth pick for.
Oh, my God. All right. And that wide receiver, Cortland Sutton, Xavier Legette, Ricky Pearsall. Running backs, he's got Saquon, Isaiah Pacheco, James Conner, Tajay Spears, and Kendre Miller. And tight end punted all the way to the 14th pick. He's got Hunter Henry. I'm never letting Evan recap his own team again. That was so painfully slow.
We're sitting here watching this. I don't know. You gave me shit about how I was given the order, so I had to find the. I don't know.
Lee, kick it off. I trust you. You got this.
That was painful to listen to, Evan.
It was.
You're welcome. I made it. It was painful for me.
I've never just straight off cut off somebody else. It was like, I have to take this over for you.
All right, so quarterback, we went with high upside and Anthony Richardson, and then we got Matthew Stafford, which is a really good backup in my opinion. Gives me a solid ceiling floor at quarterback. Running back, we went Jonathan Taylor early. I do like the hero RB strategy to get one really top-end guy and fill out the roster afterwards. So Raheem Mostert, Jonathan Brooks, Brian Robinson Jr., Chuba Hubbard, and then Tyrone Tracy rounds out my running backs. I feel like I will not have a problem at all getting 2 starters every week for the entire season there. Sure. Wide receiver, probably the strength of the team, A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp, stacked with my backup quarterback, again, Matthew Stafford. I like getting at least one stack in there. DK Metcalf, and then we got Curtis Samuel and Jalen Polk lining out the receivers. Really don't see either one of those guys starting a ton, but feel confident with Curtis Samuel as a fill-in if I need him. But this is very likely going to be a 3-3 because we do have 2 flex spots. I see myself starting 3 wide receivers and 3 running backs every week. Tight end, we went George Kittle, and again, kind of echoing Mason as much as I hate to, but if you use a top 5 or 6 pick on a tight end, especially in a non-tight end premium, redraft, you really shouldn't waste that pick. You can fill in with a waiver wire guy in case of injury or bye week, but roster spots are so valuable here. You absolutely, in my opinion, a huge mistake I see a lot of first-timers make it. You cannot go double backup. You can't have 2 tight ends and 2 quarterbacks in the onesie positions on a roster this deep and your bench being this shallow. I do think you choose one or the other, kind of wherever you feel a little more vulnerable. But I'm not angry if you only have 1 quarterback and 1 tight end in this spot either, because running backs, wide receivers, that's where you need your depth.
That's where I went with my 1-1, and that's what I. And speaking of tight ends, Lee, we still have a discussion to finish. Are we ready for it? Did you wrap up your team?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So Hunter Henry drafted the last round.
Yes.
There's a reason why I did that too, because honestly, at this point in the draft, like I could have taken Dalton Schultz, but it's murky with if he's going to get enough opportunities since they just added, Diggs, and then Hawkinson's. Yeah, Hawkinson's going to be a late round guy. Yeah, I could have gone him, but I'd rather have Sutton to fill in for injuries and bye weeks, things like that. Hunter Henry is pretty much they got rid of Jonnu. Jonnu is also another option who just got paid $8.5 million to go to Miami. So I think that there's options even that nobody drafted. So one of these guys are going to pop off. I could swap these guys out in and out, and then I will hit somebody that's going to be good for the long term. Like the tight end position is not that hard to punt if you do it right.
You're going to be struggling all year to be competitive at tight end with anybody that's got a top 8 tight end. No. So you're going to have like 3 matchups.
It's an inconsistent position to begin with. So at the end of the day,
you need a consistent guy.
Exactly. There's only like 5 of them. There's only like 5 of them. Well, yeah, you don't need a consistent guy to win the league. I've won the leagues without having a consistent tight end.
Right. You can hit on a streamer at the right time of the year, but it helps when you don't have to worry about that. You can then fill up your bench spots or IR spots with. And that's why I like TJ Hawkinson too. You can put him in your IR spot if you're managing your roster in the right way, knowing that he's going to be coming back. You got a guy that's going to close out the year in a big spot. That streaming tight end is truly streaming. It's a week-to-week thing, and it's really hard to guess. No, I think that
it's not week to week.
Find any guy that could end up as a top, 10 wide or top 10 wide receiver. Sorry, top 10 tight end. But if you find a guy even like Evan Ingram, Jake Ferguson, even Dalton Schultz, I would say, or Pat Freiermuth, even, like with George Pickens not being – George Pickens is the only top-tier target on this team. After that, Jalen Warren, Najee's not going to catch too many passes. Pat Fryermuth should get fed in a healthier year this year. I really don't see a world where Pat Fryermuth finishes under Hunter Henry, and taking him in the 10th isn't going to cost you much. Sutton he's a red zone guy. He's going to get his touchdowns over the course of the season. But last year, he really did not do much without those touchdowns. He ended last season with 10 touchdowns. The prior 2 years, over 32 games in 2 seasons, he had 4. That's Russell Wilson taking some chances. That is some touchdown upside. He's never had 6 touchdowns in any season before that.
Well, now he's playing with Offensive Rookie of the Year. So,
hold on, what?
You said talk about Sutton?
Yeah, so you're taking Mason's bonus.
It's gonna happen. Okay, Bo Nix is gonna win it, and everyone's gonna be like, "What? That's so surprising." I'm just gonna sit there like, that's not really surprising.
Bo Nix is horrible.
You're horrible.
Whoa.
Yeah,
we're going too far.
Yeah, you were highest on Bo Nix out of all of those pre-draft.
Me?
Dan was.
I think I was. I'm pretty sure I had.
Dan was the highest pre-draft.
System quarterback.
He got a pretty much locked in starting job. Only competition, Zach Wilson, and surprised because
in this rookie class, I had Bo Nix as QB4. I am a big JJ McCarthy hater. I don't think Michael Penix is going to be able to have the same success downfield as he had in Washington as he would in the NFL. Obviously, now that we know the landing spot after the draft, that becomes even more tough for him to have any value in the first 2, if not 3 seasons. So I like Bo Nix. I do think that he is, again, going to be a better NFL player than he is a fantasy player until he at least gets some playmakers after the catch. Troy Franklin's a great route runner. He doesn't get it done after the catch. Cortland Sutton, great contested catch guy, not a great route runner, not great after the catch. Marvin Mims, we'll see if freaking Sean Payton even trusts him to get on the field this year. So I like Marvin Mims, but Bo Nix is not known for sitting in the pocket, taking his time, reading multiple different reads on the route progression, and then taking the downfield target. He is a first read, hit the guy on the quick crosser, and move on to the next play. That agrees with Sean Payton's system. Sean Payton's also not a guy that really values a downfield threat. That's why we saw Michael Thomas pop off in the way that he did. It wasn't because he was the downfield threat. It was because they could consistently target him on these quick-hitting routes. I don't think that Bo Nix is the guy this year. I think he's a great value in rookie drafts and in dynasty startups. However, year 1's not going to be it. He's going to finish as a QB 20 to 26, I would say.
You see, I am once again going to prove you wrong in the offseason or, halfway through the season. It always happens. I think every spicy take I've had has pretty much been right. Besides Kadarius Toney, I will eat that one. Does that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. We all had tough ones. It's not over. It's not over. I still haven't given up.
Yeah, he's gonna have a comeback here. Wide receiver 1 for the Chiefs, Kadarius Toney.
Justin Ross.
Best wide receiver the Toronto Argonauts have ever seen. Incoming.
Let's just call it QB 18. That'll be the threshold, since that's like a middle tier QB2. Mason, do you think he will finish QB 18 or better in year 1?
I have him finishing around 16, 17. So yeah.
Okay, I will take higher than 18.
My only reason why I would be a little worried is just because they might actually give Zach Wilson the starting reins for a couple games.
Yeah.
What does that say? If they choose Zach Wilson over him, what does that say?
Yes.
That means that Sean
history repeats itself. That says history
wants his
repeats itself.
quarterback to watch the game and see how the NFL runs before throwing him into the shit of it.
So that is Mason, you will take the best Bo Nix is QB 18 or better. I'll take 19 or worse.
I'm going to go a step further there, Mason. I'll give you a softball because I don't think he'll be. I think he'll be 24 or worse. I don't think
All
they'll be
right,
in
I'll
the top 2/3 of the league.
I'll take Lee's for sure.
It's okay. Yeah, he's gonna do better than that. There's gonna be at least 8 quarterbacks that get hurt throughout the season. So,
I mean, I'm actually on Mason and Evan's side of this. I'll take QB 24 or better. I do think he'll at least be efficient enough, not turn the ball over too much to stay in that range, which is not asking much. That is just your existing as a quarterback and not fucking up.
He's going to
So that'll be an interesting range, though, because, I mean, we have me against Mason for a QB 18 or better. And then I have a narrow window of having to finish between QB 19 to 24.
23. I said 24 or worse. So if he's 24 I'm right. 24 or worse.
So, yes, if he's 24 or worse, I'll still take it.
You're between 19 and 23.
Yeah, I got to hit 19 to 23. It's a very specific range, but, let's have some fun. So, finish 24 or worse, yes, is Lee. No is everybody else. All right. I like it. We got to
revisit these.
Yes. No, and again, I got them in a Google Doc now, so easy to track. Got them all written down from the post-it notes and everything. So if you guys, if you're out here, pay attention to the Twitter posts that are coming up. Again, it's Stadium Rant HQ, and follow the volume for me. I'll be posting them on both. Go throw your vote on whoever the best team is. Now that I'm saying this, I know Evan, Mason, and Lee are finally going to chime in to Twitter to give themselves that one vote. So yeah. I'll be voting on my
I always chime in. I don't know about these other two bums.
What'd you say?
I said I always chime in. I don't know about these other two bums.
That's right.
Well, you're
all right,
the bum.
You guys.
All right.
Made it this far, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really does help us out a ton. We're going to be doing more and more of these as we get closer to the NFL season. Really looking forward to see how these ADPs shift. If you guys find this valuable, go and save this video for future reference. You can go see where these ADPs have shifted. If you believe in the shift in ADP that much to still take that player. I think that goes further than a lot of people know. For those guys that just tune in late to the redraft mock draft season, you're just seeing the ADPs as is at that time. They will shift a lot, and some of these guys overcorrect a little bit. One of the examples I would say, I think Jonathan Brooks, we even take him at the 801 here. I've seen him go in the 9th round of some of the mocks I've done right now. He is going to jump up a ton. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I would say Nick Chubb. In this draft, I'm finding them right now. Nick Chubb went at, somebody help me if they see it, at the 709. 709, I do believe as the closer we get to the NFL season, there's going to be more and more reports saying that there's still not a timetable, or we're not going to commit to a timeline for Nick Chubb's return. They want him coming back full strength. I believe with the Browns finishing last year, making the playoffs, I think they're going to think of themselves with the same defensive coordinator. They're going to run it as long as they can to make sure Nick Chubb's full strength when he comes back. Nick Chubb will likely drop from that 709 spot. Again, favorite this video. Make sure you go back and check it when we're coming up on your league's redraft time. Go and spot check where these guys landed. Make the appropriate adjustments and dominate your league, man. We're going to be here for a lot more coming up. Make sure you stay tuned, like and subscribe, all that good shit. Cheers, everybody. Have a great week.
Cheers, boys.